Hey, it's Nikki. We're back for Small Business Saturdays. Today we have Sir Charles Hill. He will be helping our audience today learn how to raise capital for their business. Hey,
Hey,
Chuck, how are you?
good, good. What's going on?
Everything's well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you located now?
I am in LA. I'm in LA.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Okay. So I am born and raised in Boston. And outside of Boston, I ended up going to Haverford College right outside of Philly. And then from school, went to New York. And I was in New York for like 15 years. My background's in finance. So I did like investment banking, asset management, commercial banking, etc.
What are some of the investment banking firms that you work with? Just curious.
I worked at Jefferies.
Oh, amazing.
Um, yeah, so I worked at Jefferies for a bit. I worked at let me see, BNY Mellon. I was with one of their subsidiaries called Dreyfus. Um, and it was cool. I was actually there for a number of years. I was a financial advisor for a year with Northwestern Mutual. And then I was at Bank of Tokyo. So yeah,
Wow.
MUFG Union Bank. So I was with Bank of Tokyo before they merged with Union Bank, and I was there during the merger. So I didn't know what Union Bank was. Union Bank's actually more on the West Coast, and they merged. So essentially, Bank of Tokyo was like a foreign bank, right? So it's a Japanese bank. But once they merged with Union Bank, they became a local institution. So so I was there for all of that.
Thanks for sharing that. So, as you know, Small Business Saturdays is all about helping businesses launch. I've taken people through the branding process, telling them that they need to talk to their attorneys about trademarking.
Which is important.
Yes, as far as dealing with that and business entities and, how to launch a business. So, as you know, many people want to start a business, and a key issue is the lack of capital. And I know
Mhm.
that you kind of left Wall Street and kind of went out on your own. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about what it is that you do. So, can you explain to everybody how you help businesses raise capital?
Um, all right. Well, so before I go into that, I think what I'll do is I'll give a little background on like how I kind of got into it. Um, so when I left corporate, I was in New York, you know, regular job, and then I left and we moved to Miami. And essentially, when I first started out, I had my own like CFO shop. So basically, what that means is I was helping a bunch of different startups, and I was like an outsider third party like CFO. So if you couldn't afford your own CFO, you can just hire me, independent contractor, and I can just do all the funding. Essentially, I was doing like accounting work, doing their financial models, and helping them raise capital. Um, and the thing is, since I kind of knew, how the funding structure worked, being in finance, I was able to help them. And another thing I did is I partnered with a business incubator called Ecotech Visions, and I was working with them for a while. And essentially, they kind of gave me a pipeline of startups that I can work with. So from there, I started. I want to say I did that for a good like 2 years, and then I started what is Playboy Capital. And essentially, it first started out as like I was just helping out athletes and music artists, but then also and then I started like doing advisory for different startups. So essentially, what I do is for different startups, that are looking for capital, I'll go first. We'll do like an advisory where I figure out like what they're doing, what they need, et cetera. And then um, I would like do my due diligence on them and see what kind of stage there are. So there's different stages of startups. So you can either be like at the beginning, like concept wise, and then that's like the family and friends round where you're just getting maybe like 10 grand, anywhere from like 10 to 50 grand from like, now see, the thing is when we talk about family and friends, it depends. Like, so, a lot of some people may have family that got, 10, 20 G's that they can just give. But I know people that, I know and families that I grew up around, they don't got that money, right? So it's harder for them to get that family and friends around, but then the next stage is seed, which is like anywhere from like 100 grand to like maybe 500,000. So, but if you can't get that family and friends around, then sometimes you have to like bootstrap, right? So you might have to like take out a line of credit. You might have to get like business credit cards. You might have to find like grants, stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
So can you take us back to the different stages of startups? Can you break those down for us?
Okay. So all right. So now it really also depends on the type of business you are, right? So for example, if you are, because you may not necessarily be a startup, you might just be a small business. Say you're like you just have like a small accounting business or, real estate or something like that. You may not necessarily be going to, you know, you might not be going to a venture capitalist to try to get money, so that's what I meant by like you might want to go to like the SBA website, Small Business Administration website, and they may have one. I think like they'll have loans that you can take out, low interest loans, credit cards, and then also grants. They may have like specialty grants depending on like, so they'll have like federal grants. You can go to like grants.gov, USA.gov, and then they also have like local state grants too. Um, Let me see what else. I mean, it's all different type of grants, specifically just for women, minorities, veterans, etc. So that's if you're like the regular small business and you're not looking for venture capitalists. Now, if you are on the startup side, so you have like you're starting out family and friends round, which they call pre-seed. Then there's the seed round, and then there's like a bridge round. So seed stage is like between, like I said, 100K to like say a 500,000, and then there's like a bridge round. You're trying to get another maybe like 200K or so, and then there's Series A, and then Series A, Series B, Series C. Series A might be like raising anywhere from like 2 million to like 50 million or something.
That's interesting. So just bringing Good Girl as an example, I think I might have borrowed $2,000 from my cousin Terry to help me start my business. And that was a blessing. But I didn't necessarily have to borrow that large amount of money to get my business going. Are you recommending people borrow money, or can people just work and put their W-2 income into a business?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to borrow money, I try to tell people, especially even startups too, but if you don't necessarily need to take money from somebody, try to do it as much as yourself as you can. And there's different ways that you can do it. There's crowdfunding sites, so you can crowdfund where you don't necessarily. It's not necessarily like taking money from like one of your uncles or aunties or somebody like that. And there's crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. So those are like older ones. More updated ones are like Start Engine, Republic is another one. Let me see what else. Circle Up is another one. Just and everybody, you guys can Google this stuff. Um, so let me see. Those are the ones that come to my mind right now. But and then there's like individual ones like GoFundMe, you know. But that's more like, if you trying to like you trying to get money because you can't pay for your tuition at school or something like that, right? So or like a cause, like say, I'm gonna give you a real life example. My sister one time, her apartment broke down, her apartment burnt down, the whole thing just burned down. So I started a GoFundMe for her, so she can raise money to like get herself back up, get herself back on her feet.
Do you
So
find that those sites are credible? I know sometimes when I see the GoFundMe pages, it doesn't really resonate with me. For some reason, it seems a little bit at times scammy.
Well, so yeah, so GoFundMe is, I mean, it could be a little sketchy because it could just be like random people just saying that there's a cause. But GoFundMe's like that one's different just because the regulations on that is a little sketchy. They're not a 501(c)(3). So say if you just wanted to donate to somebody, you cannot get, a 501(c)(3). They're not 501(c)(3) government approved. So you're not going to be able to get a receipt or anything like that. So you're just taking a risk with them. The other ones like Kickstarter, Start Engine, those are credible. Those are FDIC compliant.
And just curious, do you have to pay taxes on the money that you raise through a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter or uh, any of those type of programs used to raise money for businesses?
Um, that I actually don't know. I have to get back to you on that.
Okay, no problem. Just curious.
Yeah, like yeah, I'm honestly I'm not a tax guy, so I
Okay.
don't really know like all the tax implications for certain things. Like I have a tax guy who does
Okay,
that.
cool. I probably can Google it after we get off this call as well. But just
Yeah,
like somebody's just giving you this large amount of money, um, do you have to pay taxes on it? Like, how does it work?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know that Start Engine and Republic are a little different because that one it's like their main focus is like if you wanted to start investing in a startup and you're not an accredited investor. So if you wanted to invest in a startup and say like even if I'm a regular job, right? I make like say 75K a year. And I want to start investing in startups, but I don't have like 50 to 100 grand. I may have 2,000, maybe even 5,000. So you can go on and start investing in certain startups, even though you're not an accredited investor. So yeah, I mean, but on the other side of that, if you are a startup and you want other people to invest in your business, that's a good one. That's a good way to you can get funding.
Hey, huge favor. When I'm talking, can you put yourself on mute and vice versa? Because someone on LinkedIn saying that we sound a little bit staticky. Maybe that will
Oh,
resolve.
word.
I'm
All right.
assuming that going forward, I should probably use headphones. So thank you, Laura.
Oh,
For
I would have had my headphones.
Oh, it's not a big deal. We can learn for next time. So you brought up accredited investors. As you know, I worked on Wall Street for a number of years. I'm very familiar with the 33 and 34 Act. So with that being said, do you recommend people do Reg D placements to raise money for their business?
Wait, what was that question? Redley?
Reg D placements, private placements to raise money for their business. Is that something that you also facilitate or recommend your clients do?
Um, Not necessarily. No, I don't. I mean, I think that private placements can get a little tricky, and if you're not familiar with it, it can be a little complicated. Um, if you are, like I said, I mean, there's also alternative ways that you can get money, not just if you don't want to like do the loans, if you don't want to just do regular VCs. There's angel investors. You can find angel investors. Um, there's let me see, pitch competitions. So if you want to do pitch competition, say if you're selling products, you can do pre-sales. Pre-selling your product is a good way to, get money up front. But yeah, private placement, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily touch that.
Now, you brought up a couple of important issues, and I realize that I sent you a list of questions, but you're talking and it's kind of sparking other questions, so I might include those. You mentioned different phases of a startup. Okay, I'm a small business. I've used my own capital to start my business. It's flowing, but I'm not growing because I need more money. At what stage do you think a person who hasn't had to borrow money or raise capital should start?
I pressed the camera off by accident.
You're
um, Let me see. So at what stage, if you haven't had to borrow but now you're thinking that you may need to, because I would say if you are at a stage where you're trying to really scale up and you can't, and the thing is you feel like when you're so you say you got your business and you're doing really well and annually, with your revenues and everything, but if you really want to ramp up and scale, then you might need to start raising capital, because you're gonna be hard pressed to scale on the level that you want to, with just regular revenues coming in, because your profit margins might be not as big. Your profit margins might be small. So if your profit margins are small, but you still got revenues coming in, that's good. But in order for you to really scale and jump to a different level, then that's when I would say that you probably want to start raising money.
Can you explain to our viewers what scale means? I actually don't know what that means. I know economies to scale. Is that the same thing, or can you explain to us what scale means?
Okay, so scaling means essentially just growing the business to a new level. So, like, for example, say, uh, 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 so, oh, I'll give you a really good example. I had a business called Calzy. Calzy is an AI receptionist, for receptionist for business calls, right? Um, and they were doing fairly well, but essentially they were only local, and they really wanted the company to be like all over the US, right? They wanted to be able to service tons of different people, but essentially they didn't have the bandwidth on their tech to be able to do that. In order for them to have the bandwidth on that tech, they needed to like really build it out. So they needed to hire, they needed to, one, get more software. They needed to hire new people, and to really build out their team to handle that bandwidth, for all the different people to like go just from local to like nationally. So they didn't have the money from their regular revenues to do that. So they needed to raise capital to do that. So yeah, I mean, like, scaling just means like going from like wherever you're at, just like say you have a small team of like say five or 10 people, and now you want to really scale your business up to like maybe having like 200 people, or maybe not that big, but maybe like, to like at least, 50 to 75 person team. And, you have to pay tons of people. You have to like really like get your business to a whole new level.
So, do you recommend to your clients that they have a management plan uh, drafted before they raise all this money to scale up? It seems like the more money you have, the more management you would have to do, correct?
Um, yeah, you're definitely going to have a plan. Like, I mean, I would say even from the beginning, you wanna have what we call like a growth plan. So, and that growth plan includes like marketing. If you have a tech component, whether your business is a SaaS business, and SaaS means service as a software as a service. Um, and even if you just doing a product and it's not like actual service, or software. But you're gonna need to figure out like what your growth plan is for marketing, what your growth plan is for in invest, like if you're gonna do investments, like get raise capital, and also for your management team. So you're gonna need to, like I say, figure that out at the beginning, but then and you iterate that the whole way through. You don't ever kind of like not. So you're really looking at like, okay, I've maximized my team of like, 10 people. Now I know I need to scale. So what is it going to take for me to get from, annual sales of, 750K. I know I want to start doing 3 million. So I know I need to, bring on, you know, directors of this, or, success, like different managers, like, you need to bring on like certain advisors, etc. Like, and not just your management team either. You have to have like advisors as well, advisors in the specific industry that you're at. So say if you're in fintech, you might need to get a couple of different investment bankers, as advisors. If you're in the food industry, you might need to get a couple of different people that are experts in that industry as advisors to help you, go through that stage, that because they've already been there, right? So they know all the different hiccups, the roadblocks, all the different things, the red tape. You know what I'm saying? They'll be able to help you, guide you through those different scenarios and situations that you probably didn't even think about because you haven't been to that level yet, right? So so you need board of advisors, management team, and then also, whatever specialty, folks that you may need for your specific business.
So I'm thinking that, most small businesses are start with an idea, a brand. They want to make sure that brand is available as far as trademarking is concerned. They set up the business entity, get all the social media names across all platforms, open up that bank account, and they've now started a business. But it seems that most businesses should have this growth plan from the beginning so they can have a vision as to where they're going.
Absolutely. So, and the thing is, normally it would be on, like, say if you have a deck. So, and I feel like things have changed over the years. Before it was like you have to have the business plan, right? And your business plan included, like, it was like a whole format. There's like the marketing, the product development, your, investment, like, your financial forecasting, like all of that, right? Well, I feel like it shifted from that to now what we call like a deck or a presentation deck, where, now it's like there's a lot of visuals, but it includes a lot of those pieces, but it might include like what's the market validation of this, right? Like, say if you just have an idea, well, is there an actual market for this? So you have to look at, go and do all this research, validate that this actually idea is good and it makes sense. So from the market validation, you might have like, you know, explaining what your product is and what it does, or your service, or what have you, right? Um, but then also it includes what this growth plan is, what's your marketing plan. How are you going to go from step A? Now I have an idea. We know what the product saying it does. Okay, but what are the next steps? Like, how are you going to get those customers coming in, right? So that's part of that growth plan. And then it may include, investing if there is investment, but you should also include like what your financial forecast looks like. You know, you're saying you're going to get some of these, customers. Well, what's that going to look like the next, like in year one, in year two, and in year three? So you might have to plan for that.
I love it. I'm actually learning so much on this call, so thank you so much. So, would you like to share with our audience any accolades, any great achievements since you started Playboy Capital as far as raising money for your clients?
Let me see, accolades, achievements. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily like to brag or anything like that. But what I will say is, I just completed a deal last week. So we have a partnership with this organization called the Players Impact. So, and our main business for Playbook is we do help music artists and athletes. So that's kind of our main focus. So, and essentially what we do is we help create deal flow. And once we have deal flow, meaning like we have a bunch of different startups that we vetted, saying like, and these are companies that are raising money. What we'll do is we'll bring athletes onto the table and say, hey, are you interested in investing in some of these startups? So there's a company called Triller, which is similar to TikTok. Everybody knows TikTok, right? TikTok's like the big craze right now. Well, Triller is almost kind of like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Triller does almost the same, similar what TikTok does. So they came to us and said, "Hey, we're raising. I think they were raising something like $50 million. They allocated a couple of million to us and say, hey, are you in, can you help us raise some of this money? So, and through some of the athletes that we have, we were able to raise about $2 million. And I got a couple of my athletes that are new, young guys that they're interested in investing. They like the idea of what TikTok was. I mean, not TikTok, Triller. They like the idea of what Triller was, and we got them invested.
I love it. Before we close out, anybody in the audience would like to ask Chuck, aka Charles, a question? We have somebody by the name of Belinda that's saying hi. We have Elizabeth Korshu who said, this is great info. And Takesha agrees that it's not good to brag. That's good to know. But thanks for sharing that information with us. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if you would like to give an overview of the conversation just to put people on the right path as to how to raise money for their business. It's up to you. I always love to give overviews at the end of each call.
All right, cool. And again, you guys can ask any questions you want, whatever. If there's still questions that come in at some point. But yeah, no, overview. I would say like I said, it really depends on the type of business you have, whether it's a regular small business and you're looking for funding. There's grants, there's loans, you can bootstrap, credit cards, etc. And then if you are a startup and you're looking for funding, there's multiple different ways. Like and what I try to tell people, instead of just go giving away your equity, try to fund it as much as you can yourself. So it could be either crowdfunding, like I said, there's different crowdfunding sites, angel investors, pitch competitions, and then, or if you do want to go VC route, what I will say is, the times where you have just an idea, and you want to go and say, hey, I have this idea, and you want to pitch a VC, those times you might have been able to do that maybe like some years ago. But nowadays, like you have to have some revenue. You have to have like a MVP, which we call like a minimal viable product. You have to basically, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you have to have an MVP, meaning like you have to have some kind of app or something that's already like started. And what investors want to see, they want to see like you have daily users. You got people on there, you got people that's using it, you have active, community, and you have some revenues. Maybe you're not profitable yet, right? But you at least have revenues and you have something, and you have what we call, like I said, a deck, a presentation, and you have all that down, and then use that. And also, I want to stress, especially if you're going for VC funding, make sure you have a data room. So, in a data room is essentially, it could be like a cloud-based service, like say a Dropbox or something, and you have all your information in there. like say you have your deck, your financial model, your marketing, your growth plan. Make sure you have like your like articles of organization. You know, you have all like EIN information, all of that. Make sure that all that is in there, and then it makes it easier. So when you go to investors, you say, "Hey, here's my deck. If you want to look at all the details and all my information, you can go into our data room, and here's the link." You
So,
know?
just to give you a heads up, some years ago, someone gave me the requirements to underwrite a mortgage for a business, right? And a lot of the things that you just listed would be in a data room. So you want to have your articles of organization, which is for an LLC, articles of incorporation for a corporation, for an S corp or a regular C corp, right? We had a question from Elizabeth: how to obtain business credit. I can answer that question. So once you start your business, you're going to get a tax ID number. You can use that tax ID number to open up business lines of credit with companies like Uline, Sprint, for example, cell phone, Verizon, utilities, your electric bill. And that's how you build your business credit. You have to open up lines of credit with businesses that allow businesses to start accounts. So if you do that and you pay those bills consistently, no different than your personal credit, you will ultimately build business credit. However, you cannot necessarily buy a house in your business name. You have to have, like I said, the whole list of things that mortgage companies use to underwrite a mortgage for a business. It's a really long list. Have that, or some people think they can buy a house and then transfer the house into their business name. You can't do that. Your mortgage becomes due on sale. A lot of people don't know that. I know that because I ask a lot of questions. But how do you reach Charles, aka Chuck? How can they get in contact with you?
So one is my email, which is SC like SC at playbookcapital.fund. So not .com, because a lot of people get that confused. So SC at playbookcapital.fund. And then also my Instagram is Chuck City, and Facebook
Amazing.
and Facebook is Sir Charles Hill, which is my actual government name that my parents gave me.
And I use that as well. Your mom says hello. Just to let you know, that was really sweet.
Of
Uh,
course.
Someone
Hi,
wanted to
Mom.
know the name of the deck that you mentioned again. Was that the growth deck, or you mentioned a list of things that would go in the Dropbox?
Yeah, a deck, growth plan, marketing plan, um, like I said, articles, organization, your financial model. So, and was it they wanted to know what a deck was, or?
No, I think they wanted to know what was in the deck or the name of the deck, but you clarify it's just the deck, but maybe we should outline again what's in the deck.
Yeah, so in the deck, essentially, is your mission. I would say definitely your mission statement first. You know, your product, what the product is. You know, how it works, what have you. Market validation. You want to validate. You know, whatever that in the market that your business is in, and that makes sense. Let me see. What else? Your marketing growth plan, um, your financial model, like say your financial forecast. I'll say it like that. More like the forecast, like year one, year two, year three, and then strategic your management team. Who's on your management team? And then your I would say advisors too. You want to make sure your advisors is in there.
Okay, so Takesha, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I think this deck is kind of like a hyper business plan, and it includes all the information that Chuck just outlined. Again, you can feel free to reach out to Chuck at. You want to repeat that, Chuck?
My email is sc at playbookcapital.fund. Instagram is Chuck City, and then Facebook Sir Charles Hill.
So again, I'm seeing some questions about business credit. Business credit is great, but again, if you want to get a car in your business name or a house in your business name, you always have to also use your personal credit. You have to have a laundry list of items in order to qualify for a mortgage or a car loan or a lease with only your business name. All of this stuff is pretty readily on the internet. Again, you could always just reach out to a bank and say, hey, I want to take out a business loan in my business name. And they'll give you that checklist. And that's what you have to ramp up and get that accomplished. Okay, that I would do. But thank you so much for tuning in. Again, the purpose of this Small Business Saturday is really to empower people. I want to bring on my friends and colleagues who know about different things and kind of just show love to everybody and hope that it helps you. And we appreciate you tuning in and thank you so much. Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And like I said, like we are friends, so I definitely appreciate you having me on.
No problem. And again, the hashtag is small business SAT. And I'll see you guys next Saturday. Bye.
All right.